It's been a while since I've attempted a thrift flip, the kind that is mildly demented, that leaves my eyes crossed, fingers sore, and mood significantly lifted. I thrifted this coat almost 2 years ago. It's since been loitering around a quiet corner of my wardrobe, waiting for the perfectly deranged idea to come along and disturb its peace. So today, let's deeply offend this coat in the most delightful way. The plan is to focus solely on the sleeves. I want them to be monstrous in size, delicate in stature. I'm laying a folded sleeve down atop some blank pattern paper, then tracing all around. Around the shoulders, I'm lifting and marking to get an accurate gist of that shoulder seam. Once the side is marked out, I'm flipping the whole sleeve over, aligning it with the side seam we just traced, and continuing to create my dotted path forward. A curved ruler lends a hand in joining up the dots, and a seam gauge helps to sketch out a wobbly but mostly accurate seam allowance. Cut. And there we have a pattern to replicate our sleeves with. For the sleeve base, I'm opting for the Stupioni silk in navy that will blend well with our original coat. Most of this will be covered, so it actually doesn't make sense for me to use such nice fabric. I guess I already had this in my fabric stash, so surely that means I got this for free. This coat does have raglan sleeves, which means the seams run from the underarm all the way up to the collar. I'm choosing to ignore this rather defining part of its anatomy and opting for some faux regular set-in sleeves that will sit on top of the shoulders. My favorite Couture Embellishments book pointed me in the direction of a two-fold inverted box pleat technique involving ribbons. I've never tried this before, so let's try it. I scavenged up an array of ribbons that remind me of ice cream flavors, all 3.8 centimeters wide. I'm going to start by making one model candy and create a mold out of it. Taking a length of ribbon, I'm folding down 2 stacked folds, one on top of the other. Then mirroring this on the opposite side so that their ridges face each other. Next, I'm squeezing these together like closing a book, holding onto that spine for dear life, and stitching these in place right at the center of the ridges. Once secure, I'm pulling the folds on the left side to meet and stitching these together. Doing the same on the other side. The shape is wobbly, but the size and vibe is right. I can work with this. To make the mold, I'm taking the wings apart, giving it a good press so that its mountains and valleys retain their edges. Then, atop some thick card paper, I'm transferring this, updating it to make sure each section is of equal width. This is then cut up, folded at the lines, and here we have a delightful little mold. Now, let's put it to work. Taking a length of ribbon, I'm guiding it into the valleys of the mold. Taking a firm grip on the spine, I carefully remove the mold. With some reasonably matching thread, I'm stitching back and forth along the ridges. Pausing to add a dollop of garnish at the top. Before securing the stitch and moving onto the folds on either side. In the interest of keeping this absurd project as efficient as possible, I'm leaving the thread intact between each of these stages. Once the candy's complete, I'll trim all the threads in one go. To ensure consistent spacing between each candy, I'm using the short edge of my ruler as a guide, around 1.5 inches, marking this with heat-soluble chalk. Next, I'm positioning the mold face down at the mark, then flip the entire setup over to give me better control of the whole situation. The reason for this extra step is because the mold needs to be placed face down onto the correct side of the ribbon to ensure each new piece faces out in the same direction as the previous one. The flipping part is just my preference. It gives me more control when I work with the mold from behind the ribbon. This all took me a few oopsie-daisies to figure out, so I'm letting you know now to save you from growling at your ribbons too. As much as I enjoy working on my Anatomy of a Garment series, it's projects like these that remind me of why I started this channel in the first place. I want to feel like I'm back in primary school art class, making macaroni art, drawing on t-shirts, painting crooked bicycles. I've spent over 10 years as an art director now, working on brand campaigns, both in-house and freelance. I like what I do, but at the end of the day, it's someone else's world that I'm invited to play in for a little while. Here is where I get to freestyle, experiment, make sandcastles of my own. And I'm truly shooketh that over 10,000 of you have joined me here in my little sandpit on the internet. Infinite heart emojis for you all. What did you love doing when you were a kid? Do you still do those things now? In the meantime, I ended up making so many candies that I had to patch up my mold halfway through. I became very attached to it and couldn't bear to replace her with a newer model. This mold and I are seeing this through to the finish line, together. I shouldn't play favoritism, but this shocking pink, or sour cherry as I'm calling it, was the most satisfying to work with. I'm pairing it with stark white beads to shock the shocking. With the silhouette of spring visible just ahead, I've been feeling nostalgic about childhood family cycling trips. We'd all bike to the Kaisermühlen area in Vienna, have ice cream in this peaceful courtyard behind a church. I want to capture those simple childhood delights in this project, to wear that sharp wave of sweet nostalgia on my sleeves, quite literally. The plan is to first lay down a base layer of alternating candies that run down the entire sleeve, then work in the horizontal rows. Starting with the first column of chocolate, I'm carefully adjusting the spacing, pinning each valley to ensure the candies sit at a sumptuous height. Following this, a hit of pistachio green. Next, a stripe of custard. I'm making sure each candy sits next to a valley from the previous column. I repeat the chocolate pistachio custard combo down to the center, then start again from the other end. This way, when I combine the seams later, everything will align neatly. That leaves a small triangle of sadness in the center, which I'll fill in with a single piece of candy. Once everything is pinned in place, I'm basting down the entire first layer to prevent the next stage from being a curse-worthy mess. Trust me, I went there and I came right back. For both arms, I'm applying alternating rows of a light powder pink to sweeten things up a bit. I first prepare the exact number of candies needed for a row, cutting them to size, then carefully guiding each candy through the gaps. Arm 2 here features a new set of flavors: red sherbet, chocolate, whipped cream, and now our strawberries. At the end of each row, I'm making sure to leave just enough of a tail. Some have extensions since they couldn't quite reach the edge of their world. Now for the sassy accents. For arm number 1, I'm squeezing through our delicious sour cherries, amazed at how they transform something from unisex nursery to Spice Girl real quick. For arm number 2, some sleepy taros to act as the token hungover mellow poet at a baby shower. More of a colored downer than a pop of accent, but it's exactly the reality check that this arm needed. To finish the chaotic seams, I start by trimming the excess ribbon tails off, then applying a length of unused blue ribbon like I would bias tape, all along the right side of the sleeve edges. I'm stitching this down all around. Once secure, I'm folding the ribbon over and back towards the wrong side and pinning everything in place. I'm stitching everything down by hand since these sleeves are no longer permitted to mingle with machines. For someone who, prior to this project, was absolutely terrified of working with bright colors, I have to admit that these didn't turn out as ugly as I thought they would. Now, time to prep them for attachment. I'm joining the sleeves together using an invisible stitch, catching a length on one side, then mirroring this on the other, like a little ladder. Once combined, we can finally introduce the sleeves, wrapping this new shell over the original, encasing it. With the second sleeve, I'm making sure the position is identical to the first one, pinning and adjusting all around until they are sisters in a mirror. With the shoulders pinned in place, I move on to the sleeve openings, folding the blue ribbon inward to encase the original sleeve. Then I'm bringing this whole situation over to my table and stitching everything down using the same invisible ladder stitch from earlier. With that, and some major disbelief that I actually made it to the end, we are finally done. What a giddy mission this one was. Dancing with ribbons, puppeteering them into hundreds of little candies, a sweet childhood memory brought to life by a jaded adult. This coat isn't meant for everyday wear or any specific kind of wear. It's here to please that inner child in me, and in you, hopefully. To wordplay on that JLo album, this is for me, then. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and check out my Substack for patterns, resources, and behind the scenes of all my projects. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!